A lot of players think building the strongest team in Anime Squadron is all about getting the rarest units, but there's actually a lot more to it than that. Some units might look amazing on paper, but if they don't fit your strategy, they can end up holding your team back. That's why understanding each unit's strengths, weaknesses, and role on the battlefield is just as important as pulling them from the gacha. Whether you prefer overwhelming enemies with raw damage, controlling the battlefield with crowd control, or creating a balanced lineup that can handle anything, choosing the right units makes all the difference. In this video, we're ranking every unit in Anime Squadron from the absolute game changers to the ones that struggle to keep up in the current meta. We'll break down which units are worth investing your resources into, which ones dominate both early and late game content, and which hidden gems deserve more attention than they get. So if you want to build a stronger squad, avoid wasting upgrades, and stay ahead of the competition, this Anime Squadron unit tier list will help you find the best units for your playstyle. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking units in Anime Squadron. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Muffy, Mab, Goki, Asto, and Michigo. If these units were employees, they would be the ones spending more time at the coffee machine than actually getting work done. Welcome to the D tier, where expectations are low, performance is lower, and the main goal is usually becoming upgrade material for something better. These units are not completely useless, but let's just say you should not be building your dream team around them unless the game has been especially cruel to your summons. Let's start with Michigo. On paper, Michigo is a damage per second unit, but in practice, the damage output simply does not justify investing resources. Even during the early stages of the game, there are usually stronger options available. If Michigo happens to be on your team, it is probably because your roster is still very limited. The moment a better unit appears, Michigo's Anime Squadron career is basically over. Next up is Asto, another damage per second unit that struggles to make any meaningful impact. Asto looks like the kind of character that should be doing something impressive, but the results never quite arrive. No matter how much you hope for a surprise performance, the numbers remain disappointing. At best, Asto temporarily fills a slot on your team. At worst, Asto is simply waiting to be converted into gold fodder. Then we have Goki, who somehow manages to lower expectations even further. As a damage per second unit, Goki suffers from the same issue as the rest of the D tier crew. There is almost always a better alternative. If your strategy involves relying on Goki to carry difficult content, you may want to start preparing a backup plan immediately. The most valuable thing Goki contributes to many accounts is helping players remember why tier lists exist in the first place. Moving on to Mab and Muffy, these two follow a very familiar pattern. Both are damage per second units, both struggle to stay relevant, and both are usually outclassed by nearly everything above them. Investing heavily into either one is like putting racing tires on a shopping cart and expecting it to win a championship. They can help during the earliest stages if your options are extremely limited, but their long-term future is almost always the same. Once stronger units arrive, Mab and Muffy are headed straight toward the gold fodder pile, where they will probably provide more value than they ever did on the battlefield. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Choi, Zaro, Rimuru, Bru, Igras, Shin, and Trunks. The C tier is where hope still exists, but only barely. These units are not as painful to look at as the D tier lineup, yet they are still the kind of characters you replace the second something stronger shows up. Think of them as temporary employees in your squad. They get the job done for a little while, but nobody expects them to be around for the long term. First up is Rimuru. As a beginner-friendly damage per second unit, Rimuru can help carry your team through the very first stages of the game. The problem is that Anime Squadron does not take long to introduce stronger alternatives. Rimuru is fairly common, which means many players will pull this unit early, but that also means most players will move on from it quickly. It works as an early slot filler, but investing valuable resources here is like renovating a house you plan to move out of next week. Next is Zaro, another early game damage per sound option that exists mainly to help new players fill empty team slots. If you have just started playing, Zaro can contribute some damage and make progression smoother. However, once your roster starts growing, Zaro's usefulness drops off a cliff. The unit serves its purpose early on, but long-term investment is definitely not recommended. Choi follows a very similar story. During your first few hours, Choi can feel perfectly acceptable and may even seem stronger than expected, Unfortunately, that feeling does not last very long. As you unlock better units, Choi starts looking less like a reliable damage dealer and more like a placeholder waiting for a replacement. For early progression, Choi gets the job done. Beyond that, there is not much reason to keep investing. Then we have Igras and Shin, two more beginner damage per second units that suffer from the same problem: competition. Neither of them is completely useless, but both are quickly overshadowed by units in the higher tiers. They can help stabilize your team when options are limited, but they are not designed to be long-term carries. In most cases, they eventually end up becoming gold fodder after serving their brief purpose in the early game. Finally, there is Tranks. If the C tier had a mascot, Tranks would be a strong candidate. The unit is not terrible, not amazing, and not particularly memorable. Tranks can fill a damage slot when your roster is still developing, but the moment you pull a stronger damage per second unit, the decision becomes easy. Like many characters in this tier, Tranks is less of a destination and more of a stepping stone on the way to building a truly powerful Anime Squadron team. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Zenitsu, Mimosa, Big Beard, and Rizzuto. Now we are finally reaching the point where units start feeling useful rather than temporary placeholders. The B tier characters can absolutely help you progress through a large portion of the game, but they still come with limitations that prevent them from competing with the elite units higher up the rankings. They are reliable teammates for the early and middle stages, just not the kind of units you want to build your entire account around. Think of them as dependable family cars. They will get you where you need to go, but nobody is entering them in a championship race. Let's start with Big Beard Father. As a tank, he does a respectable job protecting the team during early and mid-game progression. What makes him interesting is that he trades some durability for extra damage compared to Shield Hero. That balance can be useful when your team needs a little more offensive pressure. However, his defensive scaling eventually falls behind stronger tanks, which is why investing heavily into him is not recommended. He is a solid stepping stone while building your roster, but not the final answer to your frontline needs. Next up are Rizzuto Sage and Mimosa. Rizzuto Sage fills the sub damage per second role and performs surprisingly well against bosses thanks to his consistent damage output. If your focus is early boss fights, he can definitely pull his weight. The issue is that other units scale much better into the late game, making them safer long-term investments. Mimosa, meanwhile, brings utility and support through her area of effect healing. Early on, that healing can feel incredibly valuable and often saves runs that would otherwise fail. Unfortunately, as enemy damage numbers continue to rise, her healing struggles to keep pace, causing her effectiveness to drop off later in progression. Finally, we have Zenitsu. This damage per second unit stands out because of speed rather than raw power. Zenitsu is excellent at clearing weaker enemies quickly and keeping the battlefield under control during the early stages. That fast-paced playstyle makes him feel stronger than many other units around the same tier. The downside is that the advantage does not last forever. Once stronger damage dealers enter your roster, Zenitsu starts losing his edge and becomes harder to justify investing in. He is a great early speed clear specialist, but ultimately serves as another stepping stone toward the stronger units waiting in the higher tiers. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Rudeus, Fastwagon, Shield Hero, Vegata SSJ4, Goki SSJ4, and Karashi. This is where Anime Squadron starts separating the good units from the great ones. The A-tier roster is packed with characters that can carry serious weight throughout your progression and remain relevant far longer than the lower tier options. These are the units that make you stop and think, maybe I should actually invest resources into this one. While they are not quite at the top of the mountain, they are definitely close enough to enjoy the view. Let's begin with Karashi Sharingan. If your goal is speed farming, this unit is an absolute superstar. As a speed type character, Karashi Sharingan excels at helping players clear content quickly, making resource farming far more efficient. What makes him even better is that he is generally easier to obtain than Wu, giving newer players access to a powerful farming tool much earlier. Even when you reach later stages of the game, Karashi Sharingan can still find a place in your lineup as a reliable filler unit. Few characters remain this useful for such a long time. Next up are Vegata Super Saiyan 4 Full Power and Goki Super Saiyan 4 Full Power. Both serve as sub-damage per second units and both share a very important purpose beyond their own combat effectiveness. Vegata is the stronger of the two when it comes to raw performance, delivering excellent damage and fitting comfortably into many mid-game team compositions. Goki is slightly less impressive individually, but players are rarely investing in either of these units solely for their standalone value. The real goal is unlocking Gogeta, making both characters crucial stepping stones toward one of the strongest evolutions in the game. Shield Hero earns his place in A tier by being one of the most dependable tanks available. His ability to redirect damage toward himself makes him incredibly valuable for protecting fragile damage dealers and support units. Unlike many tanks that fall off as the game progresses, Shield Hero continues scaling effectively through most stages of content. Whether you are progressing through story missions, farming resources, or tackling difficult encounters, he remains a reliable frontline presence. The only reason he does not reach the very top tier is because Gogeta eventually takes over that role in the true endgame. Now let's talk about Fastwagon, a unit that proves money really can solve most problems. As the only dedicated money-generating character in Anime Squadron, Fastwagon brings unique value that no other unit can fully replicate. During the early and middle stages of progression, the extra income helps you upgrade perks faster and build stronger teams sooner than you otherwise could. Even later on, there are situations where Fastwagon can still function as a useful filler pick. The content simply is not difficult enough yet to completely remove the need for extra economy, which keeps him relevant much longer than most players expect. Rounding out the tier is Rudaeus, one of the most universally useful support units in the game. His cooldown reduction effect benefits every ally within range, and unlike many support abilities, this one never really goes out of style. Strong damage dealers become even stronger when they can use their abilities more frequently. Because of that, Rudaeus scales naturally alongside your account progression. Whether you are in the early game, the middle game, or looking for a flexible filler option in advanced setups, he always brings something valuable to the table. Support units often get overlooked, but Rudaeus is a perfect example of why they should not be. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Shinx, Medora, Shanron, and Puppeteer. And now we have finally reached the units everyone is chasing. The S tier is home to the absolute elite of Anime Squadron, the characters that can dominate content, carry difficult encounters, and remain valuable no matter how far you progress. If the lower tiers are stepping stones, these units are the destination. When one of these characters joins your roster, your account immediately starts feeling a whole lot stronger. Let's start with Puppeteer Transcendent, one of the most ridiculous tanks in the entire game. While Gogeta may win when it comes to raw damage output, Puppeteer brings something equally terrifying to the battlefield: massive health regeneration. Keeping this unit down can feel nearly impossible, and to make matters worse for enemies, his debuff actually helps increase his own damage. The best part is that he is surprisingly accessible for such a powerful character. Everything required to build him can be farmed through the Katakara Bridge Challenge, making him one of the most rewarding grind targets in the game. If you are building an endgame team, Puppeteer Transcendent deserves serious consideration for almost any lineup. Right alongside him is Shanron Omega, a unit that perfectly combines utility and damage support. His crowd control abilities can completely disrupt enemy waves, giving your team much needed breathing room during difficult fights. However, the real star of the show is his wet status effect. This debuff allows Gogeta and other spark-based units to deal significantly more damage, creating some incredibly powerful team synergies. Shanron Omega is the kind of character who makes everyone around him stronger, which is exactly why he is a staple in endgame compositions across nearly every type of content. Then we have Medora Gunbai and Shinx, two units that excel in very different ways. Medora Gunbai is a boss destroyer through and through, delivering some of the strongest damage over time effects available in Anime Squadron. Against high health targets, the damage just keeps stacking until bosses practically melt away. Meanwhile, Shinx stands at the top of the support category. His area of effect damage boost dramatically increases the output of your entire squad, and his ability to stall incoming waves creates valuable extra time for your team to eliminate threats. Whether you need more damage, more control, or simply a stronger overall team, Shinx provides it all. Together, Medora Gunbai and Shinx help define what a true endgame squad looks like. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.